what's up? We back with another episode of Where I'm From Podcast with your girl B.MARIE. We'll jump right in, back talking about decriminalizing sex work and human trafficking. Decriminalizing sex work to help combat human trafficking with Pepper Joy and Rev. We did episode 1. Make sure you watch that and make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and click the notification bell to be alerted whenever new episodes come out. So we're just going to jump right back on. We left episode 1 talking about the time where I was sexually assaulted and the police treated me like a criminal. I was sexually assaulted during my time with the lifestyle prostitution, and there was a situation that happened when I went to Pennsylvania, and I was posting on, I can't remember if it was Craigslist or Backpage, and I had a guy come who pretended to want to pay for services, and instead of doing that, he came with the intention of raping me, and that's what he did. And it was a huge, super violent situation, and nothing ever came about from it except more shame, guilt, and bad behavior, because the police, for the most part, it came from the police not supporting afterwards in a way that would have helped in my healing journey. He treated me like a criminal. He was, just very focused on why I was in his small town doing this. Why are you in my town doing this? I guess the rape was a bad look for him. That's the only thing I can conclude. So what happened was I talked to him, gave him the information, did the rape kit, and then it wasn't even like life had got really bad after that. And then I ended up being incarcerated and not being able to come home that time, which was a blessing. And here I am. But I would say about a year and a half after I went to jail, and then I went to a program, went to a halfway house, I started thinking about nothing ever came from that situation. And I wanted to follow up and see what happened. So literally, as the victim in that situation, survivor now, but in that situation as the victim, the person who was raped, there was never no communication with me. It wasn't hard to find me. I was incarcerated. Couldn't type me. And actually, that's why I'm laughing, because the reason why I won't say the reason, because I'm accountability queen. But let me see how I can put this. Because I was doing prostitution and got in trouble, and then I was selling drugs as well. So I got caught with drugs as well. But the prostitutions were its own separate felonies. So I was already on probation for prostitution when I got a drug charge, and they kept me on probation. And then I went to Horsham, Pennsylvania, and got raped. That police officer told my probation officer in Jersey that I was in Horsham, Pennsylvania, and out of jurisdiction of Jersey where I'm supposed to be at on probation. They violate my probation and send me to jail with no bail. That particular situation happened because I chose to go to Horsham, Pennsylvania, and I ended up getting the rape. I wouldn't say was my fault. I went to Horsham, and that was my fault. I went there, and he didn't like that, so he got me violated.
Wow.
Well, that's just not a decent human being,
Right.
I mean, that's just not a decent human being that you had an interaction with, help or otherwise. Unfortunately, we've heard stories like this before,
right.
And at the end of the day, you were an inconvenience. He didn't want to be there. You deserved what you got. You've heard all the misogynistic and fake moralistic tropes,
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous to ask a woman that's been assaulted, what she was wearing and, stupid shit. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, I did not give permission. I was violated. Who gives a damn what I was wearing?
Yeah.
So,
and I do think a lot of people feel like that when you, well, not a lot, but he felt like, and maybe other people feel like, if you are putting yourself in a situation like as far as sex work goes, you knew sex was going to happen. But I firm believer that at any point, first of all, sex was going to happen if you paid me. That was first of all. And I told I remember telling the police that distinctively, like, because he was coming for me in that way. Like, well, this was what you knew. I didn't know a rape was going to happen, because when you give me the money, I still feel somewhat empowered. I don't know about nobody else's experience, but I still feel somewhat empowered. Whether it does something to my soul later, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm feeling empowered. We're doing a business exchange. You're not just taking something from me.
Right.
So he wasn't focusing on that. He was like, you basically were here for this. And I remember having this back and forth with him that was so traumatizing to me, because what part aren't you getting? I didn't go to that hotel room, set up an ad on Craigslist for someone to come and take sex from me and beat me up and threaten me and choke me and damn near almost killed me. And because I fought back for a while, and that was like made it worse. And I'm not telling nobody not to try to fight back, because it might work for you. But in that situation, for me, it made my situation way worse, because I fought back for a while. And when I stopped fighting back, it kind of was over fast. And then he left. But I was threatened. Bitches get killed, like where I'm from, like doing stuff like this. So I went from the perpetrator or whatever, the violent person, the rapist, telling me that, to the police basically telling me the same thing. You telling me the same thing the rapist just told me, that you deserve it. So I did, and ultimately I did the rape kit. And then so at some point when I was in the halfway house, I had made the decision and talked to my counselor about it. And I went to Pennsylvania to try to like see whatever happened to the case. I don't remember exactly what they gave the guy. So much has happened since then. But it was nothing that had to do with a rape. It was like something like very small. He never went to jail. And that was it. You know what that guy out there doing right now? If he's still out, he raping people. And I don't remember his name or anything like that. Like a lot of that stuff has been forgotten. But nothing was done with the rape. Nothing was done in the form of him getting any type of sexual assault case. And the conversation, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like the police officer that originally was not who I was interacting with when I went back. I have some recollection of him not working there or being retired or something. But I don't remember that part. But the conversation that I had when I went back to Pennsylvania, to like touch base on it again, was basically it's over with. And like they always not persuade you, but they try to persuade you sometimes, like it's too much, like it's not going to be worth it. You'll have to get a lawyer, you'll have to do this or whatever. You know, and then I had remembered the guy's name for a while, and I just started like obsessively trying to find this person on the internet. And then as the years went on and more trauma came, the guy's name that went right out my head. I don't even know what his name or even like really what he looks like anymore. So they don't treat you with respect. I've had police officers sexually assault working girls that I knew who were forced to come to the police station, sexually assault them. There's been situations where police officers have been arrested, but for the most part, just get away with whatever they want.
Yep.
Right. You know, and this brings a really good point. There's some myths that need to be busted around this idea of sex work and what it will look like compared to what it looks like right now. So this one, rape is not a hazard of the job, which is how police treat it. Like
no more than getting shot is a danger of their job.
Right. And so it's not like, yes, you're choosing this job, but you are not choosing the crime. And and the way that, and this is something that, you know, this is where, again, like you said, this exchange of money empowered me because I had control. I was consenting to this. I knew what I was, what I had signed up for until, right. And so, so instead of this police officer being like, you know, you exposed a bad guy. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Let's get you resources for your mental health. Let's get you resources for getting you back where you need to be. Let's get you some resources so that this isn't what you have to choose. or are then harmed by, right? And so we're missing real opportunities every day helping people. And so now we're trauma bonding. This is why a lot of times rape cases don't get reported. They're happening in spaces like this where it's a gray area. And then the very things that made you a victim of harm in the first place, force, fraud, and coercion, are the things that those investigators are using to shame you, to push you, to bully you. And that furthers the harm, that re-traumatizes, and that creates that complex PTSD that a lot of sexual assault survivors feel. And I hear this often from clients of mine who've struggled through something like this. The hard, like, yes, this rape, this assault, this thing was hard for me, but there was more damage, it felt like, from the response or lack of response to those that should have taken action. Like, maybe you expect something from your parents one way or another, they let you down, or your friends one way or another, and it doesn't meet expectation. But when it's those that work for you, that they can't be bothered to take care of citizens. So if you can't be bothered to take care of citizens because being a bully for the potentiality of catching a bad guy who may or may not actually be within your, like, come on, like, this is so there's, again, a lot of systemic things that go along here, but I really wanted to just name that this idea that rape and assault and domestic violence are part of the that they come with the job.
Yeah.
That's not true if this is decriminalized.
Yeah, because like some elements of that, or a lot of elements of that, will go away. And I just keep thinking about too, right? How I do remember the guy had a Pennsylvania plate, so he's from this state.
Wow.
It's not too hard to find him. He gave a description of the car and everything, and he had a baby carriage in the back seat, a car seat.
And there might be details, man, you don't know, like maybe that officer knows him. Maybe that's such a small town that they actually know each other. And so he's doing, you know.
Because at that time, I gave a very detailed description about the whole situation because things weren't lost. I knew, like, and I taught, like, you know, like, and I do feel like I gave enough. Like, I combated with him, you know, because he was being a jerk, but I did the rape kit and everything. And just was such a sad situation. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, but it catalysted me into something good because he got me violated from probation and I ended up incarcerated. And that was the beginning of the end of all of that. So something good did come out of it, but he was a jerk. I turned pain into purpose. So we not gonna fucking give him props. I took that shit into purpose. Like, yes. But okay. So let's talk about some of the benefits of sex work.
Well, some of the benefits we're still reaping the benefits of. Okay. And you've seen cowboy pictures, right? I just want to paint a mental picture for you.
Videos.
You've seen cowboy movies, Westerns, you know.
Yeah.
So I grew up on them, right? And in every single one of them, no matter how rated G the episode or the movie was, in every single cowboy movie, what do you see in the bar, above the bar?
The brothel.
A brothel, a cat house, whatever it is, right? And they're part of the community, right?
Yeah, that's how the casinos work.
Right.
Thank you. They're part of the community. Right. And let me tell you what else. Okay. All of that Western expansion that we saw, all of these, well, not any longer, but formerly the mining towns that were thriving and stuff like that, can thank prostitution for that.
Right.
Do you really think these men would have been out there far away from home, you know, trying to find their fortune with no female companionship? Okay. Let me tell you something. That is not going to happen. Okay. Yeah, we would not be where we are right now in this living room without prostitution being part of the equation.
Not only that, I'm going to take it a step further. Many of our little Western towns that they got to have the boom because they were bankrolled by sex workers.
Yep. And if there's a railroad going through your town, you probably had some prostitution happening there.
Right.
Okay. And you can thank those people. Okay.
It was making me think about when I went to Canada, and there was like in the red light district, there was a specific hotel, and in Atlantic City too, they have short time rooms. But it was a very like isolated and controlled environment. They had an ATM machine. You get your room, you do your business, and you leave. And you're not doing crimes and stuff in there because like guy is at the front desk right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but seriously, that's a serious benefit. There are also, other benefits. I mean, think about a person that is physically handicapped. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would imagine that it's extremely difficult for those people to find intimacy with the opposite sex, whether you're talking male or female. Okay. And, there is some therapeutic value to sex work as well. Human touch. Do you know how many people are lonely? And just need somebody to hear them. A lot of times these women are solicited to do nothing and men are solicited to do nothing but sit on a chair and listen,
So it does that's happened a bunch of times. There is a lot of that. And there's a lot of like guys who get older or women who get older and they don't want to date, but they might need somebody to just hang out with them at an event, or they just want somebody to spend the night with them or whatever.
Right.
They have money. Like rich people do that shit all the time.
I was about to say, it's only criminal if you are in a certain tax bracket. Right. Because, I remember working at 5-star hotel, and man, it didn't matter what night of the week it was or whatever.
And not as a sex worker, but you were
no. It was sex workers coming through,
That's his job was working
all the time.
I used to work in a bunch of I used to work in a bunch of 5-star hotels too.
A little different, but okay.
The guy like you would call the girl like me and say, I got such and such. The bellhops, I don't know if that's what you said.
No, that's not what I was doing, but I have done that. I've been asked
you be the connector.
I was
asked, they want somebody to be somebody.
I need some company. And I'm like, man, and it's funny because they always ask the black guy. You know what I mean? Like I would know where all the So I was like, look, I picked up a phone book, called the escort service, and asked the guy for a bottle of wine because it was past when he could get a bottle of wine. I said, hey, if you could bring a bottle of wine, there's an extra, money in it for you, whatever, and I wasn't soliciting her. It was an escort service, So, they like $200 for making a phone call and a phone book. That's how old I am. I use the phone book. Okay.
It's the oldest.
We used to run ahead in the phone book for classy,
right?
For service.
I called the place in the phone book. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I called dude. I said, hey, call this number and ask for whatever girl they told me was available.
Let me tell you, it took a long time for my time in that lifestyle to shift. Like there was so many fun years. We had so much fun. And then it just was so, I'm not trying to glorify it, but we had a lot of fun. And growing up probably wasn't the healthiest way for me to try to deal with it, but I was bullied. So it helped me a lot knowing that people pay for me just to a lot of times just hang around, gamble. A lot of times it's not about sex for me, never. It's about, getting paid for a service. There's, I know people who to this day still has like somebody in their life that, is like 70, 75. They've been on this guy for 20 years. The guy can't have a lot of he has like intimacy issues, like you were saying. And he really is like, that's his buddy, his friend. And he will still give her money throughout. They never have sex because he can't. And he actually really trusts her. She is a trustworthy person. He doesn't have family like that. And she's actually been like by his side in separate states, but still connected for 15 years.
Yeah.
And isn't that silly that's
not his money, she's not stealing his money. He's giving her money, and he's not like senile to the point where he can't do it. His daughter knows her, and when something happens to him, is she going to be a part of that whole situation? And it all started at the blackjack table in a casino, and he wanted to have companionship with her. And throughout the years, he's never been able to have sex with her, but he loves to be around her, dinner and everything with her. To him, that's his girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
And why not?
So she's about to get married, and everybody knows. It's like, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but everybody know him. He has become like part of the family.
Yeah.
And it all started with sex work.
Right.
So it all started with sex work. So
and they may have increased his lifespan, you know, with that companionship, you know?
Yes. Even when he moved away, and he takes the bus down to Atlantic City to see her, and they go out to the casino, and, you know, and she's not a person that, like, when he gets too old, she'll just, like, you know, abuse him. Like,
right.
His money or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? She's not like that. So,
for sure.
But she's not really, she wasn't really into it like that. She used to just hang around with us, and every now and then she would participate to make a couple dollars, and she ran to him, you know. So it's definitely beneficial. I know some of the lived experience benefits for me is, like, DeAndre asked me that day, he was like, Mom, like, he basically was talking to me about how when me and Coach met, that we just were like these two people that met, just consistently wanted to work. Like, and I told, and he was like asking me, was that like Coach or me? And I said, DeAndre, you don't remember? Like, maybe he didn't because he was younger, but I've always been a person that would get up every single day and hit the casino, go out. I'll be on call for the escort service, and I had a quota. I would want to make a certain amount of money every day. So I learned how to use the computer, running pages on Backpage and Craigslist. I learned how to build websites doing that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I learned how to do all of that stuff. Like, and mainly the work ethic, showing up. That's like my main thing. Showing up. Right. It taught me a lot of work ethic, like getting up every day and showing up, because even though I didn't particularly have a pimp, like I said before, I hung out with people who did, and it wasn't no days off. And I'm not telling you that's a good thing, because I don't want nobody making people to work, sex work for them and bring them their money. But the no days off thing is, now I don't adapt to that. But I took that into this, and it's actually like helped me to be successful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit that pimp taught helped me be successful. I don't know if this is going in the right direction, but that lifestyle taught me that when you go to work, you make money.
Right.
That's what that taught me. That lifestyle taught me that. And it definitely did taught me that. It was a transition when I got into the business world, because I had to reprogram my mind. I wax people and stuff like that. So I had to reprogram my mind. And like the first day I made $1,000 in my own business, I was like, my quota, this is what's up. So it taught me to appreciate. Definitely, it gave me a criminal record. So it was hard for me to have a career. But cosmetology, listen, y'all, cosmetology, estheticians, you can have prostitutions and on your record, and they will give you a license. You just have to do some character letters and do your probation. I had to go through a lot to get my license, but it's only an industry that you can do. Cosmetology saved my life. Holla at your girl. Trainings on my website. But cosmetology definitely saved my life. There was just one last part I wanted to touch on. and if y'all had anything else to say. But some of the solutions that let me just try to get my notes. And yeah, the intimacy part is good because people don't be having time to date.
No.
Right. But why does that mean they shouldn't have a professional service? You know,
for real. And you know, one more thing in the benefit column is that it would provide legal protection for human beings that otherwise, you know, find themselves on the wrong side of it or going through an experience like you did when they seek it. And I just think that that's ultimately important to any community, that every human being be treated as a human being and not to feel like that they are something less than that because of someone's fake morality.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
When the system is dehumanizing victims, especially, that is a level that I mean, that makes us no better than the ones who are harming people, who are targeting people, you know. And I want to state, our most marginalized person in existence is the Black transgender sex worker with a disability. And you think about all of those labels that I just named, and the rest of the story is why are they marginalized? They're marginalized because of laws. And like he said, fake morality. I called it performative morality, because if we're really convicted to help people, what we won't do is try prohibition. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked.
Never.
What we won't do is criminalize them for perfectly normal behavior, that the only thing that says it's wrong is your morality. Well, your morality is different from mine, is different from his, is different from, and who's to really say and police that?
Right.
If it comes to, you know, bottom line is, if it's consensual and it's your body, then you have every right and choice to do with that what you want. So
do we know when it became illegal? Like, why did it become illegal? Do we know that?
Okay, so here's a great little history lesson for you that also speaks to our racist roots here in America. The definition of or what made it illegal was when we started importing, when we started bringing in Asian women in particular.
Yep.
So when we started building the railroad system in America, we talked about how it was the saloons, it was the brothels that were bankrolling these small communities. So when you brought in Asian men to be slaves essentially on this railroad construction, then they would also bring in women that were of Asian descent, because that's what they're trying to match this. But also now they're exotic beauties. And so white European colonizers were meeting these exotic beauties and just overcome and starting to make stupid choices and messing up the money and all of the infrastructure that was supporting, you know, a white patriarchal system. And so then it became illegal for them to entertain. And it was very loosely, it became like this state by state thing. So at first it was, you can't transport them from place to place. Well, that's trafficking. Okay. And then it became, they can't entertain. So entertainment was a very loose term.
Yep.
So you could be an Asian woman walking down the street and that was considered entertaining because you were a spectacle being an Asian woman in this space. Then they start removing these women out of the country, taking them away from their men, from their families, from what any kind of business they've created here in America. And they also, in the census, the boxes were that you were allowed to check were black or white. What is your nationality? What is your race? Black or white? Well, if you are Asian and you click white, you're allowed, and that's an automatic crime. That's automatic deportation.
Oh. It's frozen a little bit.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you and see you now. Okay, good.
What was the last thing you heard?
Deportation.
Yeah, it was a lie. That if they were Asian, that it was a lie.
Right.
And then if they checked white, that was a lie, and then they would get deported for lying.
Yes, correct. So this is part of the, you know, when you look at all the systems that have made it criminal, it's all rooted in follow the money, always follow the money.
Access.
Yeah. What is this causing? Oh, people are seeing themselves. They want this person who's not of their race. That's going to cause problems with our patriarchy system. We're trying to colonize into the soil here. So that's a problem. It's always women who pay for it. It's not the people who enslaved them and brought them over here in the first place. Just putting that out there.
So I'm going over the harmful effects. It is like everything you said. The criminalizing sex work has the harmful effects. Just to recap: increased stigma and discrimination, limited access to health care, increased vulnerability to violence, undermining safety and labor rights, disempowerment and reduced control over their lives, the body autonomy, impact on marginalized communities, such as transgender people, people of colors, and those living in poverty. So even though I don't claim to have grown up in a house that was poor, my dad was a middle class man. I ate every day, 3 times a day, and I had clothes. But I did live in a community that would be considered a marginalized community.
Sure.
Especially when I was in sex work, because I went across the bridge to Atlantic City and I lived as a young adult with a child in Atlantic City. Definitely a marginalized community. And then increased law enforcement burdens rather than focus on more serious crimes, like you said, the trafficking part, the kids who are being trafficked, adults who are being trafficked, people who are being forced into this. Any police officers watching this video, please be mindful that when you come in contact with, even if they aren't children, we will be more happy to talk to you if you wouldn't treat us more like, if you would treat us more like people who need help, assistance, like you said before, therapy and resources, rather than criminals. You might be able to get the girl to talk, her pimp, and save a bunch of life. Because one of the pimps that I know got arrested, he worked for the United States Post Office in the daytime. And he had a house full of girls in the suburbs, and the neighbor told on him, and that's how he got caught. And when they came and interacted with the girl, some of the girls told on him. And he had some of them girls since they were like 14 years old, and they were grown-ups. And I used to be outside with them as adults. And you know, I started working at about to be 16 years old. So I was a child too. And I know we started 15, 16 years old. And some of them girls were young like that with pimps and having children under age 18. So, and had interactions with police before they were 18 and did not want to talk to the police, only trusted the pimp. Because, you know, everything outside of what you got going on is like, you can't talk to them and they don't make you comfortable to talk to them. So, you know, cops scream at you, like they just treat you like shit. So, and they give me long-term PTSD, like I had said before. So, advocate for decriminalization, support, these are some of the solutions. I typed in Chat GPT. My son uses this for things. Tried it out a couple times. Ways that we can help. Helping sex workers and addressing the harms caused by criminalization involves supporting rights, advocating for policy change, and providing practical support to reduce stigma and improve safety. Support reforms, educate policymakers. That's like what we were talking about earlier, right? When you would go to the city council and see if you could do the petition, signature petitions. And then you can raise awareness in communities. So if your city doesn't have like a community petition system, then, you know, maybe we can come together and get it as a community, even on the internet or something that maybe we can do to help reduce stigma by talking openly, like we're doing right now,
The
about the
petition.
issue.
I'm sorry. The petition is always a good idea to get the municipalities' representatives to listen. It just won't lead to the same place it does in Colorado, to the ballot. That's all.
So
You know.
understanding your local legislation structure is a good start. And then, this platform here, Brittany, with this podcast, it's a huge opportunity for people to get it, without feeling the shame, without feeling like what if I click on the wrong website, or what if this information isn't quite that accurate? No, you have peer reviewed information now that you can take further. And
educating the public about this is huge. I know that, I was privileged in the sense that when Pepper first got into this space, she wanted me to come with her, and I didn't want to go. So she tricked me into going to this lady's house who was a retired sex worker. And they talked to me at the kitchen. First, they fed me, and then you
got to come correct.
And then they, I literally just listened to this woman talk for like 40 minutes, and she let me ask questions and stuff like that, and literally changed my mind in less than an hour.
Yeah, that's good, because I'm a retired sex worker. So shout out to the retired sex workers.
Right?
They don't
just to be clear, I didn't have any problem with it, but I didn't know that I wanted to work on it from a humanitarian standpoint. But
I'm just messing with you.
Turned out I did. So, it's like where human beings are hurting, I belong there,
Yeah. So like I've always had this idea that I was going to like me and Coach one time, we had created this about human trafficking. Like I was doing like this donation thing where people were bringing shoes, and I was like donating them to places like Step 6 Success. I've always had this idea where I wanted to like be involved in some type of capacity. I pondered with the idea of like I've done speaking engagements and things like that, but I've thought about the idea of like how where people go outside and they like pass out the bags and stuff to the workers. Yeah. However, I've come to realize that I've had enough danger and chaos in my life, and that type of space is very dangerous. I've already actually been in that kind of space. I don't really want to be in that kind of space. So I had to figure out, like I was telling DeAndre, like everybody has a part, but you have to figure out like where your is. So I've already been boots on the ground. Like I don't really want to be boots on the ground. That part of that, I want to do like the way I want to do my boots on the ground is like doing my videos and ensure that I can go into like these places like City. I can do that kind of stuff because I'm very influential on this side now. Like people would take me seriously. Like when I first started this, people, I was just a sex worker or a prostitute or a criminal. And I say all this to give people hope, because 15 years later, they do take me seriously now. Like that is, so anybody who's getting out of that life, because there's a lot of shame, no shade, but because there's a lot that comes with it, because it's criminal behavior, there's a lot that comes with that.
Yep.
Yeah, like you can when you're moving out of that, because it affects your relationships with your children, because it's a criminal activity. You go to jail, you're away from your kids. A lot of healing has to happen. You go through things like rape, and on top of that trauma, you have the trauma with how the police handle it. So now you got to live with that. Sure. So people want to get out of that life. So when you do move out of that life, you don't really, and that's where the last part that I wanted to say leads me right into the solutions. There is, when I first moved here to try to get an apartment, I remember this one situation where this lady was like on the phone, like, she was like whispering it. The lady at the rental office was like, do you know that you have this, and this? And I said, yeah, ma'am, it's my record. I know that that's on there.
I know where I've been.
Whispering. Like she didn't want to say it around the other people. They weren't going to give me an apartment anyway, fucking way. And then And then where I tried to get a house at, the guy literally, we came from Jersey, where me and Coach tried to get a house at. The guy said that he rented it, and he put us in an apartment complex that in this area would be considered like, and I say this very loosely because it is not the ghetto at all.
Right.
But in this suburb town I live in, that's the projects of Ackworth.
Right.
So, and DeAndre told me that one time when he came from high school. I said, "You tell them fucking people that this is not the projects. This is because it's a community full of what, and never seen no drug activity. Even though I knew that, like, people probably sold weed around there or something, but
it's
it was nothing. Like, it's happening, but it was. We lived over there for 4 years and nothing never happened. The most that happened, like, I literally never even seen people arguing outside. This is definitely not the problem. There's no arguments outside. There's no police. Like, there was no police activity, nothing. So when he said that to me, but my point is with that, I'm rambling on now. He looked at my record and said, "Oh, this bitch going here. I'm putting her over here. I got this little apartment." And then he told me 2 years later that I was actually the best tenant that he ever had. "You should have put me in this house in the suburbs when I first got here, but you moved me over here." So yeah, that didn't work out for him. That person came in his house, messed his house up, and left after a year. So where am I at? So you can support sex worker-led organizations. You can donate to organizations, like support sex worker advocacy groups. And then also you can create and support safe spaces like what we're doing. Like creating safe spaces for people to have these conversations. Provide, and our health and legal people, you can provide health and legal services like how you did with the survivors of human trafficking or people in the type of life, and you did, at one point, the discounted services. And then, they give you a whole list of stuff. Like, you could push back against laws that harm sex workers, listen to and empower sex workers, center sex workers' voices, respect the autonomy and choices over what people have fucking their own choice for their own body. And then encourage business support. That's another part of what I want to participate in, because this is gonna make me so happy. I feel so happy. Create public and private partnerships. Encourage business support. Private companies can play a role by providing jobs, training, and inclusive workplace policies that support people exiting sex work or needing help re-entering the workforce. So I feel super grateful that I was a criminal before, because it allows me the lived experience to be able to know that when you're getting out of lifestyle of sex work or prostitution, or if you're coming from being survivors of human trafficking, in those type of lives, sometimes the pimp has you doing the computer and like the things like that. So I learned so many things, and then being in business now for about to be 10 years, I can help people know how to do something different. And it doesn't have to just necessarily be like college or anything like that. Like, you can get a trade. So that's the area that I really, really want to focus on, like, for myself, encouraging business support, and then community collaboration, advocacy groups, and sex work support groups. Like how I met you in that support group, and you were a referral from people in that group. So communities like this are very important. These type of spaces are very important. I'm super grateful for y'all and all that you do. I'm gonna cry. Go ahead. It's gonna make me cry. Like, you have been such a huge impact on my life. I swear. Like, when I make the list of like people who kept me alive, I'm like, so I'm so grateful. I had you on here, and then I had you on here, and I have y'all together like full circle. I feel special.
It's awesome to be here, and it's awesome to get to talk about something that could impact the world.
Yeah.
And getting to have, so I love that you're here with us because you spoke to this a little bit earlier, but I don't like the idea that there's this phrase that they use, nothing about us without us. And it's hard for sex workers to feel safe to talk about this openly. And so it takes those that have been there and are no longer in danger of having their life ruined because of it, to have the platform to give voice to it. And we're coming from a perspective of like, we're not sex workers, have never been sex workers. I totally have a perspective on the trafficking side of things. And yet, as a married couple, as people who are here for, like he said, the hurting, the marginalized, the harmed, that's a call for us to show up. And so to get to do that together and to show people like this isn't a nasty taboo subject. This is actually this is mental health. This is actually physical health. Yeah. This is community care. This is actually a big part of what can create a thriving economy and a thriving lifestyle for many people. And so, and it leads to other things, right? Like you just talked about, you learned a lot of entrepreneurial skills and how to show up every day. And now you've alchemized that into something that is a lifestyle where you feel even more yourself there. You feel even more. And it took a road to get there. However, how much better could that have been for you if you weren't also, if you didn't have things stack against you again and again and again in again, a legal system, right? So I hope that anyone who is current, former sex worker, or even trafficking victim, survivor, if you're hearing this, I hope that this perspective today has kind of shed some light on some details that perhaps you had thought about, had not thought about, didn't know what the answers were. And so I just want to extend my gratitude again, Brittany, for allowing us to come and take up space today with you and get to educate on this really, really important topic. I'm excited to see the ripple effect of this.
Same.
Yeah, and I want people to join the conversation. Like, drop us in the comments. Like, this platform is transparent. It's a safe space. I share a lot because I've already been told numerous occasions through meditation and my own reflection that this is part of my purpose, whether on some days I like it or not. And like days like this, just like dealing with other outside stuff, did I really want to get on here and help? But in return, it does help me. I found myself, I'm gonna wrap up with this. Like, I found myself in New Orleans a couple weeks ago. And when I went to New Orleans, like, I just was like, this is not a nice place. And I get time with my dad and my son. And I just felt all the energy from New Orleans, like the tragedy that just happened recently. And I'm not the type of person, like how you said, like when there's a need, like a calling need, you just show up. That's how I am. Like, and I felt like New Orleans for me, I felt like there was a need. That was a space, there was like a huge need there. So I had to be very intentional because I wasn't there to be in the community. That I went there on a 3-day little quick trip with my dad and my son. But my internal self doesn't allow me to be in spaces and see past, even though sometimes I wish it could, I can't see past what's really going on. So, I can't see past like that the world has gotten really, really, really bad. It's like it's been bad. And now it's amplified because we see everything on social media and everything is like, right in your face. So I see that like things are happening. So when like things like COVID happened and like sex workers were inside the house doing things like I was really happy for them. Yeah. So when I went to New York, I felt all of the energy. And then like when I came back, I had to just like detox myself from all of that. But when I was out there, I just want to give a shout out too, because I love to promote entrepreneurship. And I was walking through a mall there and a young gentleman, I can't think of his name right now. I think his name is Steve, actually. But he had a kiosk there, and it's hard to really see. Let me just pull this out. But his company name is Believe in Yourself. So he had these sweatshirts, and it has like something on the back, and it has like this thing on the back where he has it. So that was really nice. And I'll put the information if you want his. If anybody watching the video wants any of his apparel, he has the hats in different colors, t-shirts, and it just really stuck out to me. So that was a part of my trip that, you know, really, I like to wear stuff like your shirt, where it says, like, I just like to wear stuff just like represents. So this was cool. He put, I'm gonna do another bit like on my Instagram about what's going on in the back, because I'm like about his brand or whatever, but I just wanted to give his company a little shout out. So that was a moment where I had in New Orleans. I was like, I love entrepreneurship, and like when people are just like really promoting good things. And I don't know about him, but I know that people, like a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, we come from shit and we make it happen. So it's like, and that's where our drive comes from.
Right.
And I know a lot of people who used to be in sex work and they have different businesses now and they're doing quite successful. So I just really want to hone in on that. Like, that's the part that I want to play in that. Whether it be sex work and you're trying to get out of it because it's criminalized and you have a bunch of shit from it, or selling drugs, because I did that too. And that's always been my message, like just to take what I've learned and to help others to just continue to grow out of that stuff, because the legal system does apply a lot of pressure on your life when you're doing these type of activities. And it keeps you away from your kids, unfortunately. And, you know, a lot of healing needs to happen. So I do appreciate you, because both of you have definitely been a catalyst in my healing journey. I'm so grateful. And I think that's it on this conversation.
Right on.
Decriminalizing sex work is very important. So we're going to keep this conversation going. And until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification bell, and so you can be alerted when any new episodes come out. And I love you all. Be kind to yourself and give yourself. I like to believe that we're all trying to just do our best out here. But if you're not, I fucking am. Pepper is. Her man is. So jump on this frequency. And I love you all. And have a good night. Bye.
Shabones.